Thanks very much. Can I just ask a quick favour, actually? If you want to comment on today's proceedings on Twitter, use the hashtag #ThisIsRochdale. This is Rochdale. We're great to get Rochdale trending, actually. There's a lady in the second row there. She didn't have a business card, so she allowed me to take her photograph, didn't you?
Yeah.
So we'd never forget. You know, that's Rochdale summed up, I think. Now, when we're thinking about famous people in Rochdale and what Rochdale's famous for, you, like me, were probably thinking of Richard Hagan of the Crystal Doors as well. That's what I think. Which is just as well, actually, because Richard is here today. We're going to talk all things energy. So we've got two fantastic speakers, or two fantastic interviewees. The first one is Richard Hagan, Managing Director of Crystal Doors, and also Todd Holden, Director of Low Carbon at the Growth Company. If they can join me on the front, that would be great. I wouldn't clap.
Okay.
So the way it's going to work is I'm going to come to you first, Richard. I'm going to ask you loads of questions first, and I'm going to come to Todd as the expert to see how much of what you say is actually true. Okay. We're going to talk about energy and how you've completely transformed your business. But before we do, just talk about how you came into your business, because interestingly, you went to university and you wanted to go into manufacturing side of things, in food manufacturing. But then you were hit by a rare skin condition, which is highly contagious to everyone in the... No, it's not. No, it's not. You're cured now. You're cured. Just tell us about this skin condition. I'm going to stand over here, actually, Richard.
I have psoriasis, and 10% of the population have psoriasis, so there's no issues and it's not contagious. However, that occurred in the last year of my degree, which is food manufacture, so I was expecting to go straight into the food industry as a production manager or as a quality manager. I got an excellent job, excellent pay, and then the doctor said, can you take your clothes off? We do stool tests here, we do...
We didn't need to know that.
In the food industry is obviously the microbial load on a person, which for psoriasis, with your skin growing too quickly, it's an issue. So he said, sorry, find another job. Fortunately, I enjoy research, I enjoy the excitement, I've got a huge amount of passion. It was easy to translate that into a different job.
Well,
unfortunately, a year later, that company went under, so I then bought the company, and here I am 25 years later.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Richard, you lost a room at Take Your Clothes Off. That was the moment. Now, Crystal Doors, I visited your business in Rochdale near the M62. It's the UK's leading manufacturer of vinyl wrap doors. You employ 30 people, you turn over £2 million. Just tell us about the business today, because this is a business that could be anywhere in the world. It's that technically enabled.
Absolutely, yes. Manufacturing is manufacturing. What we've got to do is realise that manufacturing's changed completely from the 25 years ago. Is instead of classic machinery, where the employee has to be very much trained on using that machine, we've got a lot of digital technology, we've got a lot of automation, and even though we've got a robot, it's the level of what those employees are now having to learn and do has changed dramatically, and is going to change in the next 10 years. What's great is what we've got in Rochdale is we've got the opportunity to grow the north of Manchester as an absolute advanced manufacturing centre of the north, as part of the Northern Powerhouse.
Richard, you're good, you know that, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm looking at you now thinking we're talking about energy and all things green. You've got a little subtle green tie there as well.
Crystal Doors' colours.
It's that level of detail. If we look at the business today, the factory today, and we compare it to what it was like in 1994 when you walked in, when it talked about being environmentally friendly and using green energy, what was it like in 1994?
It was difficult because one, I didn't have any money, and the other one, the council didn't like fires outside when we had to get rid of our wood. So obviously things have changed dramatically. There was dust all over the factory. Once again, health and safety means that we have to have a zero amount of dust inside the factory. So what we got away with literally in 1994 is not able to be got away with now. Policy changes, and the policy is getting harder and harder. Something like landfill kept on going up. So the savings that we make by changing and adopting the new manufacturing techniques both saves us money, but makes us very, very competitive in the marketplace.
The thing is, in terms of being environmentally friendly, and in terms of, and we're going to talk a little bit about Industry 4.0, how you've embedded that into your business. If you'd not done that then, given the fact you've got cheap rivals like IKEA, doing something similar to you, if you'd not done that and made your business efficient, you wouldn't be around today, would you?
No, absolutely not. No. As a small player, it's the big players have got the money, can do the investing. Is we've had to find a niche market, but within that niche market, we do command a huge amount of respect from everybody else, because Crystal Doors is well known within the industry, but it's only a tiny company. But by bursting through and by being an advanced manufacturer, by having digital transformation, we've now got everybody looking at us. And what's great about Rochdale is it's great to have companies that everybody is starting to look at Rochdale for its positive and it's an exciting place to be.
I mean, Crystal Doors, it's 24/7, you know, you've got a production schedule if you need it.
We can ramp straight up and straight back down again. Yeah.
Absolutely. Your light bulb moment, and that pun was deliberate, your light bulb moment was about 5 years ago. You went to Siemens in Congleton, and they said they've got to make 20% efficiency savings every year for the next 4 years. Yeah. And you suddenly thought to yourself, if a company of the scale of Siemens does that, then little old Crystal Doors can do that.
Yeah, I didn't realise throughout the world Siemens actually compete with each other. They closed an American branch down because the English branch could make it cheaper and better and faster. So Siemens is very aggressive in making sure that they're driving their costs and increasing their research year on year. So obviously from my point of view, to listen to the Managing Director, John, which I saw again last week with the Manufacturing Champions, which is part of the growth company, and it's free, and it's unbelievable. The talk last week was great. The week before, the time before was Lux4 to do with R&D. I learnt a huge amount from that. And John was sort of saying for us to stay in the market within Siemens before they close Congleton down, that's what they've got to achieve. And if that's what the very, very large companies are doing, what do the little companies? We really need to get on the digital transformation, get on the advanced manufacturing. There's so much disruptive technology out there now. Even Elon Musk is saying it's not linear, it's now exponential. The opportunities out there is very, very disruptive. The car industry, they thought that Tesla was a cottage industry. What's happened now? The economics of yesterday saying that 24% down in car manufacturing. The electric car is here. I've got one.
Yeah. You've got a Tesla. No, you haven't actually.
No.
You've got a Nissan Leaf, haven't you?
Yes, Nissan Leaf too.
Absolutely, Nissan Leaf.
Made in England.
Made in England, absolutely. Not made in Rochdale, but there's time. We're going to hear from Todd in a minute in terms of some of the practical help that's available to businesses, you know, to become more energy efficient and ultimately to improve their bottom line as well. You did an energy audit. That was one of the first things you did after your visit to Congleton Siemens. And they identified a 16-point plan, is that right?
Yes, yeah. That's the thing that I've got to tell everybody. Please do sign up. Please, if you don't do anything else, get an advisor in and get the case of sort of saying this is what we've identified. If they can identify nothing, then that's absolutely great. But I'm sure they will identify something. So I had to write this list down because I can't remember 16 things. It says the initial resource efficiency review the utility bills. Business utility bills are difficult. We didn't realise there's a power factor correction is the way that the phasers work. We've now got a power factor correction machine, so it goes back to the electricity board. Perfect. That saves money by putting that in. Comprehensive report, action plan, the carbon footprint, so that identifies where we can make the savings. Reduction in environmental impact, assistance with further calculations, the quotes for the suppliers for getting the various projects done, funding, as in we receive funding, purchase of a cuddly toy, general catch-up, and then we've got the biomass now, which is brilliant. We've got voltage optimization, the dust extractor, solar PV is what we're
not going to ask any questions now. You just
answered forever.
You just basically spoiled my entire questions. But thanks for that, Richard. In terms of some of the things that you've done, there are short-term fixes and there are long-term fixes as well. Yeah. And I want to ask you about some of the short-term fixes that you've not told everybody about. Okay. When they went into your business, one of the things that they looked at in terms of with leaks in your compressed air system. Yeah. And obviously, in terms of manufacturing, you know, there's a lot of compressed air systems out there. How much money did that save you?
I think I saved about £1,000 a year quite easily, instantly, just by tightening up the leaks. When the factory's running, it's ear defenders. So I have to almost go in on a Sunday, start all the machines up to be able to even hear the hissing. But they've got the technology to be able to go around and actually find all the tiny leaks that you can't actually tell.
And new buildings today, new buildings will have LED lighting as standard.
Yes.
You didn't obviously have that in 1994, so you phased that in. What sort of savings did LED lightings make to your business?
Nowadays, you can save the money back of the capital expenditure within 2 years. That's how far LED lighting has come along. Yeah. It really is a good investment immediately.
And the point is that when you were in your business, what are you looking at?
These lights.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, that's really sad, actually. I'm just thinking, what's happened? Something's just flown across there. But in terms of your business, you didn't have this big pot of money, did you?
Oh, and never had a large pot of money.
You had to look like, I can tell, looking at your cheap suit, especially the waistcoat as well. But you had to look at everything as a payback.
Yes.
In terms of,
everything's return on investment, everything's unit costs. Yeah, that's manufacturing.
In terms of your big investments as well, because we've spoken about some of the quick fixes, like the compressed air systems, you know, and also, you know, the LED lighting as well. You had a couple of big expenses, £500,000 renewable heating system, which includes the use of wind and solar energy. You've got solar panels everywhere. And the funny thing is, actually, is that even when it's not sunny, it generates, is it 90 kilowatts of energy?
It's delivering probably about 30 on a day like this, and it's 100 kilowatts. And then by the end of the year, we'll have it up to 230 kilowatt system.
And what difference has that made to your business, that £500,000 investment in this renewable energy centre?
A huge amount. The cost of energy is going to be going up every single year from now. So if you're paying we pay 10.8p, but we'll be renewing at 13p, then it'll go to 15, 18, 20. That's the way the government is going to be pushing it, to make sure that people become more energy efficient. So getting off the grid, coming up with alternative solutions, reducing your electrical load is obviously the way forwards, and it's the early adopters that make the big gains.
Just a reminder again, if you want to follow the conversation on Twitter, you can. The hashtag is This Is Rochdale. The first time I met Richard, true story, I was interviewing at an Industry 4.0 event at BAE, and I swear to God, I've never heard a man get so excited about a dust extractor. Because you spent, seriously, I'm from Rochdale, he said, let me tell you about this dust extractor. I thought, I've struck gold here. I really did. Trying to make eye contact with people in the room and see if I can get away. But then you said to me, Chris, you've got to see this to believe it. So I ended up seeing it, and it is amazing. It's this £580,000 investment, and you describe it as the brain of the business, because in your business, in manufacturing, dust extraction is key, and it's transformed the business. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I understood Industry 4.0 4 years ago after visiting Congleton and read up about it and realised that this is the way manufacturers have to run their companies in the next 5 to 10 years. I then scoped it with a dust extraction company, and they said that's not possible. Ecogate, which is in California, then wrote the software. After 6 months, they came back and said, we think we've got a solution. They then installed the plant, and it had a few teething problems because they'd never made one before. And now the system's up and running. It's allowed that digital transformation because all the machines are connected to the dust extractor. We now have what's called a digital twin, so we can see our factory working. I can't see it on a phone, but I can see it on my laptop, and how everything's working, and be able to identify and drill down the data of how efficient are we running, and how efficient can we then start becoming, what work can we take on. So I can take on very large contracts now, which is one of the difficulties within manufacturing, is you try and double turnover in manufacturing, you can't take on those jobs, where Crystal Doors now can quite happily ramp up to 24/7 and ramp straight back down again.
But in terms of such as your love of your dust extractor, have you got a name for it? Do you call it anything? It's just a dust extractor?
No.
Okay.
Industry 4.0 dust extractor. But it has put me on the map because it is the first in the world.
You can be, talking about being on the map, you can be anywhere in the world. You can be on the beach, and you can check the performance.
I can turn it off.
Yeah, you can, just at the flick of a button. I think I'm right in saying that in the last 7 years your energy costs have, dropped to about a quarter, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So
yes, it's all the little savings as well as some of the big savings. This is where the growth company, once they've done an energy audit, is you can take some of the low-hanging fruit and make some great savings with very little costs. Then obviously, as I keep on going through the years, I've been doing it for about 6 years now, is initially I wasn't a green guy at all. I was quite happily just to be a businessman wanting to make savings. It's just that as you keep on going through it, after 6 years, you start becoming very, very acutely aware of what other savings you can do. And obviously that turns into changing your lifestyle and changing your outlook and the culture of the company itself.
And there's also renewable energy grants available for you. So how much money do you get every year from grants?
From the Renewable Heat Incentive, it's about £80,000 a year.
£80,000.
And now there's no wood going to landfill.
Okay, I'm going to come to Todd. Just one more question, actually. But 98% of your waste is now recycled.
Yeah.
And you're an interesting character because you drive this Nissan Leaf car. You've got the ambassadors emblazoned on the side. You're a massive advocate of
It's
that.
already there.
It's already there. And you don't go to trade shows overseas because you're trying to save air miles and trying to reduce your carbon footprint as well. And I think the target for GM is to be carbon neutral by the year 2038. We'll hear about that in a second. You want to be carbon neutral by the year 2030. So do you see yourself as do you feel good about what you're doing, as well as it saving you money and improving your bottom line? I mean, you've got kids of your own. Do you see yourself as an ambassador, as an example, as a role model? How do you see yourself?
I certainly am now. I don't think I saw myself at the beginning as a Mr. Green whatsoever. But as time goes by and you start to research what's happening in the world, what's happening locally, and the fact that you can save money and at the same time save the planet, is the 1.5 degree by 2050 is, a lot of people are saying it needs to be done in the next 12 years. So my plan is definitely within the next 12 years we will be carbon neutral. And now it's a case of a bit like the northern forest of the 50 million trees being planted. I want to be part of that. That's the way that I can achieve my carbon offset. Because you can't really get down to carbon neutral. You've got to have some form of offset as well.
You want to plant 11,000 trees, but we're going to get back to that actually. Can you pass the phone? Pass the phone. I've got the phone in my hand. Thankfully, it's just a phone in my hand. Otherwise, I just said what I saw. Now, Todd, I'm not one to exaggerate. Far be it for me to exaggerate. Todd Holden, Director of Low Carbon at the Growth Company. But there I was this morning, waking up in my hotel in Rochdale, and I looked at the BBC News, and there it is, the lead item: climate change. UK government to commit to 2050 target. Greenhouse gas emissions in the UK will be cut to almost zero by 2050 under the terms of a new government plan to tackle climate change. Now, I cannot believe that announcement isn't connected to today's event. Would that be fair, Todd?
Seems fair enough to me. I mean, I think people say individuals don't make a difference, but clearly coming here today has made a massive difference, hasn't it?
Thank you very much. That's all we're going to say. You just leave it like that. Todd, how important is that announcement? Because it's a bit of a game changer.
Yeah, I think it is a game changer, and I'll touch on the sort of economic reasons for doing this later on, and that'll be the main focus. But I think it's probably just worth putting today into context. What we've said as a country is that by 2050 we will be carbon zero in terms of our emissions. That doesn't mean we won't emit CO2. What it does mean is that CO2 that we do emit, we will either capture it using trees or peatland, or we'll use some form of carbon capture and storage technology that currently doesn't exist. And I think what we'll hear on the news tonight, you'll hear people bleating saying that actually it can't be done, it's too expensive. And part of that is because they're not looking at the advantage that will bring not only to business but also wider society. A lot of health benefits will come from it. The low carbon sector, so the businesses that are actually in this sector providing this technology, is rapidly growing. It actually contributes 13.7% of Greater Manchester's GVA. It's bigger than automotive, it's bigger than food and drink, it's bigger than steel. So actually this is a massive growth area for the UK, and one which we are leading the world in. So it's really significant in terms of our ability to move this forward.
Todd, can I ask you a quick question about Richard, if I may? And it's hard to believe looking at Richard right now, but if you can, use your imagination, look at Richard. When it comes to energy efficiency and environmentally friendly, Richard Hagan is your poster boy, isn't he?
Yes.
That was like Lorraine Kelly.
Next question.
Ray, that was 2 days ago. That was a very old backhanded compliment, I suppose.
And let me explain why that is, because this is an individual who understands the market that he operates in. He understands the risks and opportunities that are facing in that market in the short and medium term. He understands what his cost base is. He understands the significance of reducing cost as opposed to just constantly chasing sales and what that means to the bottom line. Remember, if you've got a 5% margin, then a cost savings worth 20 times more. He uses that as an economic and a differentiator in the marketplace to win new business. That's exactly what low carbon is about. It is not about beard and sandals and yogurt. It's not about that. There's a real economic advantage here, and those people who get on the front foot will gain, and those who don't will just disappear. And it's as Darwinism as that.
I've got 2 daughters. The youngest one's got asthma, so clean air is a big thing for me. Just tell us a bit about the Clean Air Initiative as well in Greater Manchester, because that's something that's big on your agenda.
Yeah, I think to put into context, UK government has been taken to court on 3 separate occasions now for its failure to act in terms of clean air legislation. And the judge, the last time Client Earth took them to court, said, if you don't think they're doing enough, bring them back and I will hear another case. They're probably going to end up in that situation. We have within Greater Manchester, which is toxic. We often view the issue of poor air quality as a London issue, but actually air quality is not, in terms of the impact it has on health, it's also about the health of your population. And we have some challenging areas in Greater Manchester in terms of our health. So to put that into context, the highest rate of emergency asthma emissions in the UK is in South Manchester. Causal link is with air quality. The second highest is in North Manchester. It is shortening people's lives, and it is a significant health issue which is costing hundreds of millions, if not billions of pounds every single year. And it is something that we will have to address going forward.
I'm going to ask now for some practical tips. So there's lots of people in the room right now thinking, I want to be the next Richard Hagan. It's crazy people, but they've looked at what Richard's done in terms of he's transformed his business, he's made it environmentally friendly, big supporter of green energy as well. You've got a team of 10 advisors. So if I was a business in a room thinking, actually, where do I start? It would be to say, can one of these advisors come out to my business? Is that the way it works?
Yeah, I think we've got some advisors in the room. Do you just want to make yourself known?
Why don't you stand up?
Better still.
And shout your name at the top of your voice.
Hi, I'm Laura Brandick. I'm one of the environmental business advisors.
I was only joking, but they're good, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
They are. So you need to shout your name now.
My name's Richard Perkins. I'm an account manager that covers the Rochdale area.
Okay, and the gentleman over there.
I'm Martin Lyman. I'm one of the manufacturing advisors and we find opportunities to bring in people like Laura from the environment side.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can sit down now. That's not good. I wasn't expecting that. But these really helpful people, they're your advisors. So what happens? I'm a business. I want to speak to an advisor. What happens next?
So we'll do an initial conversation with you over the phone to get an idea of the shape and size of your operations and how much energy you're using. We will then look to get one of our advisors on site. We'll talk through the offer in a little bit more detail. And then following on from that, assuming that it is suitable, as in your energy spend is high enough for us to think we can make some significant savings, we will come on site and we'll do an audit report. We'll actually identify the opportunities where you can save money with we tend to look at a relatively short payback. So most of our opportunities will pay back within 2 or 3 years. A lot of them will require no capital investment whatsoever. And then we're not the usual consultant that borrows through your watch, tells you the time and then walks out the door. We will hold your hand through that process. We will help you move those recommendations forward. We will help you find local suppliers who can actually do the work for you. And then for some companies, we can actually give capital grants as well. So we can cover up to 50% of the capital costs for energy efficiency equipment within your business.
Todd, I don't want to stereotype, right? But I've got a vision. Don't know if anyone remembers the film Ghostbusters. Do you remember that? So these advisors, do they wear great big power packs and they're armed with a zapper gun and they go into your factory and that's how they work out your energy efficiency? Is that the way it works? I hope it is.
They can if you want.
Okay.
But we do. We have compressed air leak detection equipment. We have clamp-on meters so we can work out the energy consumption of any single piece of equipment. We have thermal imaging cameras so we can take pictures of your operations in your building to see where you're losing heat. That technology is absolutely fantastic, but actually where the real value is you get a dedicated person who can sit with you and understand your business and actually take you on a journey from where you are now to where you want to be. The technology is fantastic, but actually it's that individual support that we can give that will actually enable you to take that forward. And what I would say as well is that support is funded. I always say that funding is limited. We don't know what will happen in the future. As that funding is part European, we really don't know what's going to happen in the future. So there is an opportunity now. It is finite, and I would encourage all of you to get involved and gain the advantage you can get from this.
Here's a question for you. We've heard from what Richard's done. If you walked into 1,000 businesses, and I should just say actually that I host lots and lots of events. I thoroughly enjoy hosting events, and what happens is the chairs get laid out before, and then very subtly, a lot of the chairs get taken away before the event starts, because we've not got a full house. And we've got a full house here. It's absolutely incredible for Rochdale. I think that's a massive kudos to Rochdale as well. But if you walked into 1,000 businesses, how many of them would be 100% energy efficient that you couldn't improve on?
None.
Not even Richard's?
Not even Richard's, no. I've never walked into a business where that's the case. You can always improve. It's that cliche, it's like quality, isn't it? It's a journey, not a destination. And that's really what this is. This is an ongoing journey to being completely carbon neutral and efficient. And the reason you'll never be 100% efficient at the moment is because of the way the cost is falling of the technology. So 5 years ago, you may have looked at LED technology and went, not going to do that. Payback period is 6 years. You look at it now, you're looking at 2.5 years. So your heating system at the moment, you might think, I can't put a heat pump in, it's too expensive. 4 years down the line, that could be a third the price as it is now. So the price point of the technology is in free fall, and the cost of energy is increasing. And actually what we're going to see within the energy market is we're going to see a restructuring of the way energy is billed. So energy is billed much more around the time of use of the energy. So as opposed to being a flat rate day or night, if you use energy at between 4 and 6, when everybody wants to use it, you will be paying a lot more for your energy than you would if you were using it at 10 o'clock in the morning. So that understanding of energy, of being able to generate energy yourself, to store that energy, to come off grid at certain times, to actually game the way that you use energy, will have a massive impact in terms of your ability to be profitable and to move forward.
you can use, some of the equipment that you use is like thermal imaging equipment, which can identify where the leaks are. You can also use these energy clamps, which you attach to a particular piece of machinery and can work out how energy efficient it is. Richard mentioned some of the quick fixes that he took in terms of the compressed air leak and also the LED lighting as well. What are the quick fixes? And the other question I want to add that to is, it's not just about machinery, is it? It's about cultural change. You can have all the equipment you want, but unless you've got champions in the business who actually believe in it, then it's not going to work, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, a lot of this is around behaviour. It's around seeing energy as a variable cost within your business that you can control like any other cost, as opposed to just seeing it as a flat overhead that nobody owns. Where you'll save energy is effectively where you spend energy. So if you're a manufacturer and you've got compressed air and you've got big machinery and you've got heating and cooling, that's where you're going to save the energy. If you're in an office, then it's going to be probably around your heating and cooling systems. It'll be around the thermal efficiency of your building, the lighting, the equipment that you've got. But you need to take your staff with you. I originally started my career in the chemical waste industry. I moved into sort of environmental business support back in 1996 in Rochdale. And we used to save companies £5,000-10,000 simply by saying, don't switch everything on when you walk in the morning and turn it off before you leave at the end of the day. 20 odd years later, still finding businesses where that advice is relevant to them. So that taking your staff with you and understanding that and having ownership and devolving that ownership of energy within your business is a really good way to sort of start this journey, because you will be running things that you don't need to run, and you'll be running it quicker than it needs to be run, at a higher pressure than it needs to be done. You'll be lighting things that you don't need to light. There are lots of very simple things you can do, and your staff will have a lot of ideas as well.
Quick show of hands, how many businesses in the room have actually got energy efficiency equipment within their business? Okay, so there's a lot of people to go at, isn't there? 5 hands, it's fascinating. I interviewed Dave Whelan a couple of years ago, and we were walking through his business, and he was turning all the lights off on all the rooms that weren't occupied. I mean, obviously if he's got LED lighting and automatic lighting, sensory lighting, he wouldn't need to do that. It would just pick up if anybody was in the room as well. Are there any grants available to help a lot of the businesses in the room who perhaps are thinking about it but aren't doing it yet?
There are grants in Greater Manchester. There aren't any national grants, and there haven't been for some time. But within Greater Manchester, we have a grant programme that we deliver. And there's sort of 2 elements to that. We run what we call a small-scale grant. So that's projects up to about sort of £2,500–3,000 in value. And we can give a 50% grant towards that. They're relatively small projects, so we only need 1 quote. So if you want to change your lighting, if you want to just tweak your heating system, we can very easily give you a grant which will cover 50% of the cost of that. For those of you who are looking to do something more substantial, as part of our audit package that we deliver, we will sort of help you develop a package of measures which you can take forward, and we can give a capital grant of up to £12,500 towards projects up to £25,000 in value. So there are capital grants available. We haven't really had that in Greater Manchester before. It's very unlikely that after this they will be there in the future. So now is the time to actually use that. And I would say that actually we found that Rochdale businesses are really switched on in this space. We've got light touch engagement with about 90 companies across Rochdale. We're working with about 30 in detail. And of that 30 companies, we've identified savings of £3.9 million, of which just under £500,000 per annum savings have already been achieved. So if you were thinking, what your margin might be on that £500,000, that's quite a significant amount of sales you'd have to generate to save that money.
I've got some more questions to ask, but I'd like to ask anybody in the audience who's got any questions they want to ask this august panel. Feel free to ask either now or afterwards as well. I went to an event yesterday, and I'm a very visual person. I think if you can demonstrate something, it's visually very impactful. And this guy, we went to an accountancy event, and he had this slider, and he said 70% of people, and I'm assuming it's true, I'm taking him on his word, he said 70% of people, when they're told if they don't make lifestyle changes by their doctor, that they won't be around, 70% of them have died within 12 months because they don't necessarily change their lifestyle. The point he was making is that it's very difficult culturally to change the way we feel. And with a business, I would imagine that must be the same as well. So the question to the both of you really is that it must feel like it's a hard thing to do when you're looking at your bottom line and you're trying to keep your business going and we've got all this uncertainty over the B word, etc., etc. And that might be a reason not to do something, but it can't be, can it? Because businesses won't necessarily survive if they don't make some of these changes. Not necessarily today, but years hence. I mean, what would you say about that? Do you find businesses want to do it, but they just can't make themselves make that change, Todd?
I think one of the challenges that we all have that. We all have a day job. We all have a to-do list when we get back to the office, and there are things that have to happen that day, and they tend to be the priority that we focus on. And therefore, opportunities around cost reduction that you can put off well tomorrow, you often put off well tomorrow. Problem is, tomorrow comes, you've got a new set of challenges, and these things tend to roll. And the key thing around this is about breaking that time out of your day to make the changes that are needed now, because it's a bit like the boiling frog analogy. It's like it will just slowly and slowly eat into your business.
Do you say boil a frog?
Boiling frog. You put a frog in water, you increase the temperature. The theory is it doesn't jump out.
It's an analogy. It's not the case. It
Has
does jump
anybody
out.
heard of that analogy before? I've never heard of that analogy. Never heard of that analogy.
Well, you didn't know it was a poster boy,
No,
so
I
you
didn't,
know.
Absolutely. So if you want to boil a frog, you can show how people how to boil a frog.
Please do not tweet boiling a frog. I do not want the RSPCA on me.
I mean, in terms of you work across Greater Manchester, we're here in Rochdale. You know, we've got a lot of commitment in Rochdale already. How is Rochdale? How does it compare in terms of companies and areas and boroughs who are looking to become more energy efficient and environmentally friendly?
From the analysis that we've got, so we've got data going back, as I said, to probably turn of the millennium in terms of savings. Rochdale businesses tend to be more proactive in this space. They tend to have greater level of saving, and they have a greater level of investment. And part of that is historic, part of that is because of the engineering and manufacturing base and the residual textile industry. The fact is that those companies, if they weren't forward thinking, if they weren't thinking on the front foot, they wouldn't be here today, because they'd have disappeared. They'd have gone in the 80s and 90s like most of those businesses did. So it's those forward-thinking companies that we've got in Rochdale that are actually pushing forward and taking the benefit of this. Whereas in some of the other areas which don't have that industrial legacy, they're a bit slower to get switched on.
Okay, can I ask you to hand the microphone back to Richard? Just going to finish up with a couple of questions for Richard as well. What's your driver in terms of, you've seen the way it's transformed your business. What would your message be to businesses in the room? It's interesting when, I always do the show of hands at least once in an event, and I had a big room of about 150 people. I said, how many people have bought a newspaper today? Not one hand went up, and it just explains the way, you know, the world has changed. And 5 hands went up, 2 of them fairly nervously in terms of what they've done. And yet you've seen the way it's reduced your energy bill by 3/4 in 7 years as well. What's your message to people in the room, both in terms of business people and would-be ambassadors for Rochdale?
I think one of the most important things is we're no longer owners and bosses, we're leaders. We're leaders for the company that we operate in. And as a leader, you've got to have a vision, you've got to have that passion, and you've got to change the culture that the employees follow you on that journey. And obviously what's important for Crystal Doors is all the employees love coming to work, love doing their job, because it is a culture of us having fun and enjoying and doing something different. And everybody here, hopefully, wants to start that journey, because, as Todd says, I didn't realise that the electricity is going to change at the 5 o'clock and go up and down. I've already got a digital technology to be able to turn all the machines down and turn them back up again and run with lights off factory. So in 5 years' time, my factory will be able to run without the people during that time, and then come back again, because it will be fully automated. So it's start that journey. I was quoted in the manufacturer's annual report, and it's
let me just pick that name drop off the floor there. I was named in a manufacturing institution's report. Well, they sound really impressed at that. They really do. Okay, so yeah. So you were named in this report, Richard. Okay, it's better be good.
It is, yeah. Yeah, there's no time for waiting. You must act now, and that is becoming often and often repeated. There's no sitting thinking, oh, the LED lights will become a bit cheaper next year, or this will just become a bit cheaper. I'll do it next year. It's as a leader, once again, you need to work on your business, not just in your business. as you were saying, Todd, it's not about firefighting. It's about, as a leader, you've got to be working on your business. You need to be looking for the next 5 years, 10 years. What is the vision that you expect? That's why John gave an absolutely fantastic talk about they've got a vision for Rochdale. Rochdale is an exciting place to be. I'm so proud to be in Rochdale.
I'm going to give the final word to Todd, if you can hand the microphone back. But I mean, if you just hand the microphone back. But one thing that struck me was that, you know, they had those protests, didn't they? You know, the big protests, the energy protests in London earlier this year as well. It took a 16-year-old girl, you know, came over from Scandinavia. The point is that the millennials, and the teenagers coming through, they're not willing to accept the fact that, you know, it's about bottom line at any expense. It's not. They want to go into a business which is environmentally friendly and can demonstrate that it's doing its bit for the, you know, for the universe as well. Todd, I don't want to put any pressure on you. This is the final word, you know, before we finish and go into networking. So this has got to be absolutely on the money. No animal, no animal cruelty, Todd. Okay.
No frogs into. No
Okay.
frogs
What's your
involved.
final word?
One is an ask, really, in terms of if you're watching the news this evening, the decision this morning around becoming carbon zero will come up, I'm sure. And it's a piece of information I'd like you to communicate. The aim of that policy is for us as the UK to do what we need to do in terms of being compliant with the Paris Agreement, which basically says trying to keep global temperature rise to less than 2 degrees. I just want to explain what that means. Last year was one of the warmest summers on record. If we hit the Paris Agreement by the mid-2040s, last year will be a relatively cool summer. The hottest day in the warmest summers in 2040 will be 12 degrees warmer than they are now. That puts the temperatures in the mid to late 40s. You think about what that means in terms of the UK's infrastructure, if you think about what that means in terms of running your business, that is very challenging. And that's on the basis that we get this right. So we can talk about this as all the efficiency and everything else, but ultimately, we don't really have a choice. Politicians are presenting this as a choice because it is expedient for them to do this. But actually, the economic reality of this, of what we face and we will face every day, because we are of that age, it's on our watch, is actually quite significant. So share that information, make people understand it's not just a little bit warmer on a Friday afternoon, it's significantly warmer for a long period of time. And that will be very impactful on all of our businesses.
Okay, and before I ask you to give our two speakers a big round of applause as well, I'd just like to remind everyone that networking opportunities are available afterwards. Put your hand up again, the three advisors. They're in the room today. Wouldn't it be great, you know, if out of this meeting we actually saw some action and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 businesses actually invited the auditors in, and then we can update people, can't we? And then we can go back to these people and they can be the next Richard Hagan's of the world as well. Thank you very much to Rochdale Development Agency for organising this today. And also, you know, I'm getting more and more involved in Rochdale. So if you've got a business and you've got a good story, then come and see me because I'd like to know about it as well. So don't hold back on your round of applause. Round of applause for Richard Hagan and for Todd.